holding a tablet that was written thousands of years ago and being able to read what it says. It's an amazing feeling.
If you see a cuneiform tablet for the first time,
thousands of years ago, the ancient Sumerians carved stories into clay tablets that continue to puzzle researchers today. Among the most mysterious claims linked to these texts is the idea that humanity was not the first intelligent life to walk the earth. Some interpretations suggest that 5 different beings or species may have existed before modern humans, only to disappear without a trace. Were these forgotten civilizations, misunderstood myths, or warnings from the distant past? Join us in this video as we explore the ancient tablets, the theories surrounding them, and the mysterious fate of the 5 species said to have come before humanity. Number 5. The Anunnaki. According to the story told in these ancient tablets, the first species to make direct contact with humanity was the Anunnaki. They were described as huge and powerful beings, broad in build, with faces that looked as hard as carved stone. Their hands were said to be strong enough to crush bone, and they wore a strange kind of metal skin that reflected no light at all. Unlike other mysterious beings mentioned in the tablets, the Anunnaki did not arrive quietly. Their presence was immediate, and it was terrifying. The tablets claim that the Anunnaki descended in 12 locations across ancient Sumer, including Uruk, Eridu, Lagash, Ur, Kish, Nippur, Adab, Umma, Larsa, Bad Tibira, Sippar, and Shuruppak. In every city, they reportedly moved straight to the largest structure, removed everyone inside, and took control of it. But conquest was not their main goal. According to the text, they wanted workers. The tablets describe thousands of Sumerians being forced into the mountains to mine a mysterious substance called the red stone that holds fire. Some modern researchers have suggested this could refer to cinnabar, the bright red ore from which mercury is extracted. If the tablets are to be believed, the Anunnaki needed enormous amounts of it. The records claim their occupation lasted for 240 years. During that time, conditions became increasingly harsh. Lifespans reportedly dropped, infant deaths rose dramatically, and the population shrank at an alarming rate. The tablets even provide detailed production figures, stating that hundreds of thousands of tons of cinnabar ore were removed from dozens of mining operations. The final product, they say, was more than 1,600 tons of pure mercury. And then comes the strangest claim of all. According to the tablets, none of that mercury remained on Earth. Every last bit of it was taken away by the Anunnaki for a purpose the Sumerians could never understand. Why they needed it, where they took it, and what eventually happened to them remains one of the greatest mysteries in the story. So what other species were described? Keep watching to find out. Number 4. The Ushamgal. If the tablets are to be believed, the next species arrived only after the Anunnaki had disappeared. They were known as the Ushamgal. Unlike their predecessors, they did not seize cities, force people into mines, or demand resources. Instead, they chose a much quieter path. And according to the tablets, that made them far more dangerous. The Sumerians described the Ushamgal with a phrase that has fascinated researchers for years: those who wear many skins. The text never uses the modern word shapeshifter, but the meaning seems clear. The Ushamgal were said to possess the ability to take on different forms. They could appear as ordinary Sumerians, as Anunnaki, and even as animals. The tablets claim they borrowed these forms and could maintain them for days or even weeks before returning to what was called their first shape. That original form is described in remarkable detail. The Ushamgal were said to be reptilian and bipedal, walking upright like humans. Their scales reportedly changed color depending on their emotions. Green signaled calmness, red appeared during aggression. Black emerged when they hunted. Their eyes had vertical pupils, and their fingers ended in sharp claws that could be hidden when not needed. But physical appearance was only part of the story. According to the tablets, the Ushamgal desired something very different from the species that came before them. They were not interested in metals, minerals, or labor. Instead, they sought what the text calls the breath of the wise. For decades, scholars have debated what that phrase might mean. Yet when the events described in the tablets are examined closely, the answer seems surprisingly simple. The Ushamgal wanted influence. They arrived at a time when Sumer was struggling to recover from centuries of hardship. Cities were weakened, communities were fractured, people were desperate for guidance. Rather than ruling openly, the Ushamgal presented themselves as advisors. They offered solution. They shared knowledge. They whispered ideas into the ears of leaders. The tablets record that they slowly infiltrated every level of society. They entered the priesthood. They gained positions within ruling councils. They advised military commanders. They became trusted voices in every major city. And over time, their influence spread everywhere. Within just 30 years, the tablets claim that Sumerian society was transformed. Before the arrival of the Ushamgal, cities were governed by councils of elders, with leadership changing hands regularly. Afterward, power became concentrated in the hands of individual kings. Before the Ushamgal, religious practices were local and decentralized. Afterward, worship was centered around massive temple complexes controlled by priest kings. Before their arrival, military service was largely voluntary. Afterward, permanent armies became a normal part of life. Every change followed the same pattern. Power moved upward. Authority became centralized. Control soon became easier. The tablets suggest that this was the true meaning of the breath of the wise. It was not a physical resource. It was the ability to shape how people thought, what they believed, and how they organized their societies. According to the records, the Ushamgal remained in Sumer for more than 4 centuries. But what happened next may be the most unsettling part of their story. The tablets say that when the Ushamgal finally departed, not all of them left. One passage states, "Some chose to remain in borrowed skins." The meaning seems clear. Certain Ushamgal allegedly stayed behind, hidden among the human population, continuing their work from within positions of influence and authority. That claim raises an obvious question. If some Ushamgal remained in Sumer around 3100 BCE, what became of them? Did they eventually disappear? Did they blend into humanity? Or, according to the tablets, could they still be here? The text never provides a direct answer. Instead, it ends with a warning. The ones who wear skins do not age as we age. They do not die as we die. They remain until their purpose is complete. And with that, the tablets leave the mystery unsolved. The next species were known as visitors who came to help. Let's find out more. Number 3, the Nibirans. According to the tablets, the next species to arrive was unlike any that had come before. While the Anunnaki demanded labor and the Ushamgal sought influence, the Nibirans appeared to want something entirely different. In fact, they are the only species in the tablets described in a positive light. The Sumerians portrayed the Nibirans as beings who looked remarkably human, yet clearly different. They were said to be taller than most people, with broader skulls and unusually bright eyes. Their skin was described in a poetic way, as if it held light the same way water reflects the sun. To those who saw them, they seemed familiar, but not entirely human. The tablets claim the Nibirans arrived aboard a single enormous craft that hovered above the Persian Gulf for 17 months. Unlike the species that came before them, they did not force their way into cities or take control of temples. Instead, they established formal contact through appointed representatives. They came with proposals, rather than demands, and what they offered changed everything. According to the records, the Nibirans shared advanced agricultural knowledge with the people of Sumer. They introduced crop rotation, the use of nitrogen-fixing plants to improve soil quality, and selective breeding techniques for wheat and barley. The results were said to be dramatic. Within just 10 years of their arrival, grain production reportedly increased by 300%. Food shortages became rare, and famine largely disappeared from the regions influenced by their teachings. Their impact extended far beyond farming. The tablets credit the Nibirans with introducing new methods of construction that transformed Sumerian cities. They taught builders how to use arches and vaults, and they promoted the use of fired bricks that could withstand time and weather far better than earlier materials. Most remarkably, the tablets claim that the famous ziggurats, massive stepped temple structures that became symbols of Sumerian civilization, were originally a Nibirian design. The first of these structures was reportedly built in Ur around 3850 BCE under direct Nibirian supervision. The Nibirans also shared medical knowledge that saved countless lives. The tablets list several techniques they taught to Sumerian healers, including wound cauterization to stop severe bleeding, plant-based treatments to fight infection, methods for properly setting broken bones, and herbal compounds used to reduce pain during surgical procedures. To the people of the time, this knowledge must have seemed almost miraculous, yet despite their generosity, the Nibirans did ask for something in return. The tablets refer to it as the seeds of continuation. Most researchers who have studied the text believe this phrase points to genetic material. In modern terms, it would be similar to collecting DNA samples. According to the records, thousands of Sumerians volunteered. The process itself is described in unusual detail. Groups of 20 volunteers were reportedly taken aboard the Nibirian craft. They remained there for 3 days before returning unharmed. When questioned about their experience, they spoke of being placed inside a chamber filled with light. They described beams passing through their bodies while voices communicated with them without speaking a single word. The tablets never explain exactly what the Nibirans were studying or why they needed these samples. What they do say is that the Nibirans remained among the Sumerians for 96 years. During that time, they helped reshape agriculture, architecture, medicine, and daily life. Then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, they prepared to leave. Before departing, the tablets claim they delivered a final message. We will return when the sky marks the time of joining. For centuries, that promise has remained a mystery. Scholars, astronomers, and researchers have searched the heavens for clues, trying to determine what celestial event the phrase might describe. Was it a rare planetary alignment? A passing star? A cycle known only to the Nibirans? The tablets offer no answer. They simply leave behind a promise, waiting for a moment in the future when the skies themselves will reveal its meaning. Keep watching to find out the other species that the tablet described. Number 2. The Ashagar. Among all the strange beings described in the tablets, none may be more mysterious than the species called the Ashagar. Even the meaning of their name has sparked endless debate among those who study the text. According to the translation provided in the tablets, the word is made up of 3 parts. Ash means singular. Me refers to the divine laws that govern reality itself. Gar means to place or establish. Put together, the name can be interpreted as the ones who set the singular law. What exactly that means is never fully explained. The tablets describe the Ashagar as small but incredibly numerous. They lived in vast structures built directly from the earth. Unlike the other species, they were not portrayed as kings, conquerors, or teachers. Instead, they existed as something closer to a collective. The scribe uses a phrase that appears nowhere else in known Sumerian writings. They thought with one body. The statement is both simple and puzzling. The text suggests that individual minds somehow functioned as part of a larger whole. Each member acted independently, yet all seemed connected by a shared intelligence. Decisions made by one were reflected in the actions of many. The tablets do not explain how this worked, only that it was central to the nature of the Ashagar. But the most remarkable part of their story is not how they lived. It is how they vanished. According to the tablets, the Ashagar were destroyed when the breath of the world changed. The phrase appears repeatedly in the account. Their cities remained, their tunnels endured, their structures survived the passing ages. Yet the beings who built them disappeared completely. The text claims they could not adapt when the very air around them transformed. At first glance, the story sounds like mythology, yet it becomes far more intriguing when compared to what modern science has discovered. Paleontologists studying the late Carboniferous period have found evidence that Earth's atmosphere once contained far more oxygen than it does today. Species that depended on oxygen-rich conditions struggled to survive. Many vanished. Their tunnels and traces remained, but the creatures themselves disappeared from the world. The tablets describe a remarkably similar event. The breath of the world changed, and the Ashagar could not change with it. It is a striking parallel. What makes the mystery even deeper is the age of the text itself. The scribe who recorded this account lived around 1800 BCE. He had no access to atmospheric models, geological surveys, isotope analysis, or fossil records. Yet the explanation he gives for the extinction of the Ashagar closely resembles ideas that would not emerge in modern paleontology until thousands of years later. The scribe did not speak of oxygen percentages or climate shifts. Instead, he described a species that breathed differently from all others and perished when the air itself betrayed them. Whether that connection is meaningful or simply a coincidence is impossible to know. The real mystery is this: how did a tradition preserved in ancient Sumer come to tell a story that seems to echo events from a world unimaginably older than humanity itself? The tablets never explain. They simply leave behind the tale of a forgotten species, a changing atmosphere, and a warning that even the most successful civilization can disappear when the world around it changes faster than it can adapt. Keep watching to find out more. Number 1. The Luna Kur. The final species described in the tablet may be the most fascinating of all. Unlike the towering Anunnaki, the mysterious Ushamgal, or the advanced Nibirans, these beings seem strangely familiar. The tablet calls them the Luna Kur, a name that roughly translates to the near humans of the other land. From the moment their description begins, it becomes clear why they stand apart from every other species in the record. The tablet provides an unusually detailed account of their appearance and behavior. The Luna Kur walked upright on 2 legs. They used stone tools to hunt and work. They wore animal skins for protection and lived in caves. They buried their dead and appeared to care for members of their communities. In many ways, they looked and behaved like humans, but they were not quite the same. According to the text, the Luna Kur were physically stronger than ordinary humans. Their bones were thicker and more durable. Their skulls sloped backward, where human skulls are generally flatter. They communicated through sounds that carried meaning, yet those sounds were not considered true speech. The description creates the image of a people who stood somewhere between familiar and unknown. What makes their story even more unusual is how it ends. Unlike the Ashagar, they were not destroyed by a changing world. Unlike the Anunnaki, they did not suddenly disappear. There was no war, no disaster, and no dramatic extinction event. Instead, the tablet offers a simple and almost heartbreaking explanation. The new ones came, and the Luna Kur grew fewer and fewer until the last of them slept and did not wake. That single sentence may be one of the most haunting passages in the entire text. For centuries, it was little more than a mystery. Then modern science uncovered something remarkable. In 2010, researchers led by Svante Pääbo published the first complete genome of the Neanderthals. Suddenly, scientists had an unprecedented look at a human relative that had vanished tens of thousands of years ago, and the similarities were difficult to ignore. Like the Luna Kur, Neanderthals walked upright and used sophisticated stone tools. They wore animal skins and lived in caves across large parts of Europe and Asia. Archaeological evidence suggests they buried their dead, possibly with ritual significance. Their bones were denser and stronger than those of modern humans. Their skulls featured prominent brow ridges and a distinctive sloping shape at the back of the head. Even their communication appears strangely similar to the tablet's description. Most evidence suggests Neanderthals could communicate effectively, but their vocal anatomy may not have allowed the full range of speech used by modern humans. They likely produced meaningful sounds and complex vocalizations without possessing language in exactly the same form that we do today. The parallels continue. Modern research indicates that Neanderthals and modern humans lived side by side for thousands of years. Rather than disappearing suddenly, Neanderthal populations gradually declined as modern humans expanded across their territories. Their numbers slowly shrank generation after generation. Eventually, only small groups remained. Then, around 40,000 years ago, the last known populations disappeared. They grew fewer and fewer until the last of them slept and did not wake. The resemblance between the scientific record and the tablet's account is striking. Yet there is a problem. The Sumerians emerged around 4,500 BCE. Neanderthals vanished roughly 40,000 years ago. Between those two events lies a gap of more than 35,000 years. That is an enormous stretch of time. Oral traditions can preserve stories for centuries, and sometimes even millennia. But surviving intact across 35,000 years without written records would seem almost impossible. And yet the tablet's description aligns with Neanderthals in nearly every major detail it provides. The anatomy, the behavior, the tools, the communication, even the slow and gradual pattern of decline. This leaves us with a mystery that the tablet never attempts to solve. So, what are your thoughts about these 5 species? Let us know in the comments section below. In the end, this was never just about 5 mysterious species. It was about an ancient tablet that raises questions we still can't answer. Were these stories pure myth, forgotten history, or memories of something far older than humanity itself? Whatever the truth may be, the mystery continues to fascinate us thousands of years later. If you enjoyed this documentary, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories that explore the secrets hidden in the ancient world.